industrial arts line.
Okay, so all the options are there.
Yeah. But not necessarily something that's accessible for all students through, would be specific to the industrial arts line as a space. So this is the Manter site. Holmes Hole Road. So what we looking more closely at the deed, the Manter well site is 3 parcels of land. And the previous study had established had 3 parcels who have identified that 2 of those parcels weren't actually part of the Manter well. It's a 28-acre parcel which is made up of this dark outline, and also a small sliver that fronts along Holmes Hole Road all the way up till William Norton Road, I think. And one of those small sites that are in that ladder of sites that the fellow over here referenced earlier. So that means when we all went out and visited the site, and this is the well access road, we parked here and we were showing access in this way, we can pull the access up further up to on Holmes Hole Road to connect closer to where the sewer system is, the sewer connection could be. So starting further north. So roadway in, small parking lot here, larger parking lot here, parent drop-off on this end, bus drop-off here. This is the blue area is the public spaces that might be the community use, so that's where the building would secure off. This would kind of be the night entrance. This is the main school entrance. Series of classroom pods and then the gym that create these courtyards. These courtyards could have gardens in them, and also some terrace space associated with some of the spaces like the art room and industrial arts lab. This would be a fire lane. That might be just a gravel path around. It could be a lot of things. Full soccer field, softball field, and lower grade play down here, and upper grade here, near hard surface, and more gardens up here potentially. So the plan, this is the main entrance, large sort of 2-story space, administration right over here, the lowest grades at the very end, pre-K and K, first and second in a small cluster here, fourth and third and fourth in a small cluster here. The maker space sort of in the larger expanded corridor between the classrooms. So each of these clusters of classrooms would have an expanded corridor that they could spill out to from the classroom for maker space. The shared spaces along the corridor leading to the cafeteria, art room, music, industrial arts, gym here, OTPT, stage, cafeteria, kitchen, and that's all sort of back of house here and lockers. Second floor. So one corridor has views out to the entrance. The idea here was with those partnered science labs to have them sort of in the center, visible from the entrance, so there's sort of the dynamic of science on display on the second floor. And the same sort of classroom clusters, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, with a media center here at the top. Some mechanical space. And that's roughly it. And we don't have the site plan drawn into this, but that's the main entrance. This is kindergarten. That's the gym. And that's all the options.
So just because 3 stories seem to be my thing today, is there consideration of doing 3 stories on a site so that we're minimizing our footprint?
We could definitely do a 3-story here.
I mean, I don't know. I like the 3 stories of this building. I don't know how other people feel. That's totally my personal feeling. But I think it only makes sense for this site to go 3 stories. But I think we could even consider it in this situation too. I don't know how other people feel, but
I think it would be less expensive. That layout is going to be somewhat expensive. The long running walls and ducts and so on.
It would probably be, mechanical systems that would serve each of these ponds, sort of isolated to them, so they wouldn't be reaching
Is
out.
that the same area as the other one?
Pardon me?
They're all the same square
All the same
feet.
square
Yeah.
They're all the
they
same
are.
square
Yeah.
footage, yeah, they are.
Within it.
New buildings,
Okay.
yeah.
Still tweaking.
So I'm doing a 3-story school, the Hanningham School now, and I think the nice thing about it is that it creates really small, intimate learning environments. You know, that you have that, the short corridor, you see both ends, and I think 3 stories is definitely worth looking at. But some people have a real aversion to it for elementary school,
I just
especially starting new. So
feel like 2 stories that's big for little people. To traverse an entire school like that, it feels overwhelming to go into this. I remember going from this school to the high school, and that's going from 3 stories to 1 story, but I felt so lost in my first few weeks as a freshman because it was just this expanse of hallways and classrooms and doors, and it was a lot to get used to. So I just think about my little people wandering through that enormous building and feeling really overwhelmed at the scale of those spaces.
I think the nice thing about this would be smaller than the Williamstown school, but that was sort of set up with pods, and students had their sort of small community that spent most of their days in. This circulation was not a long, relentless corridor, but connected to the outdoors along the way quite a few times, and operators used to look out and see out and sort of gauge where you are in the landscape and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it benefits the both.
Right, so if the 2-story option Manor site was chosen, let's just say, for argument's sake, as the preferred schematic design, is there an option at some point to change it to 3
There
stories?
is, absolutely.
Okay.
Colleen,
We could look
do you allow the public questions too?
Sorry? Yes.
Are you allowed to ask
Yep.
questions?
Yep, does anybody have any questions from the presentation from the committee? Okay.
So I'd like to ask the committee, maybe you could have the answer. Is this the first time to actually look into the diagram and then see how it's going to look in the 3-dimensional to you today?
The
Yes.
first time
Yes.
it's seen in 3-dimensional.
Yeah,
They've seen it
and,
2-dimensionally.
Yeah, that was the thing. And then I think it was already answered. Is it the same exactly same required square footage, like a 50-some thousand square foot, in all these 3 or 4 options?
I would say yes, with the exception potentially of the addition renovation, because in our experience, there's just inefficiencies in existing buildings that might make that slightly off, that number, a little bit. You can really control it with a new building. With an addition renovation, it could be slightly over. I doubt it would be under,
And
but not wildly.
And at the moment, this is I'm asking you to actually keep that in mind all the time. Flexibility of the space. At the moment, I see all the rooms that was required, but if there is a future expansion happening, where does it go to add another volume? Then it's going to actually deter all this layout that original idea was intended. So, and the next thing is orientation of the building, like horrible corridors, or sometimes you're facing the west sun, like a spinal corridors. Then it's going to be really, really disturbing anybody who will have the migraine, because west sun is always the worst.
This?
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. So that was supposed to be treated, but somehow they just think that having the large windows are always nice. So I was thinking that maybe smaller classrooms that could open up to become the 2 smaller clusters become the 1, and then the 3 clusters can be shared in the middle by the AB taken by the bigger activity of the class, and the BC can be taken by the other class. So instead of taking the 900 square foot of classrooms, I think you said in the Vision Council, maybe it could be slightly shrunk, but have more flexibility embedded. And if the certain activities like industrial is art, and then just regular art, if it changes, then is it going to accommodate it? Because I saw that activity rooms are slightly in the different sizes, and I think that it should be, regular classroom should be the same module, and then the large rooms should be the same module, and then somehow you have to deal with the flexibility in the middle to kind of separate it, and then can be remodeled in the future. So that kind of the future adjustment should be always considered. And as I said, sun orientation. And in the existing option 1 or 2, I saw the lobby as a congregational, but I don't see some kind of congregational or like a the happening space that because they are learning the real society, even though they are not the same grade. But I want to see if there is any chance to create that kind of congregational spaces in the corridor or just looking at each other or that kind of thing. And also, in the existing building options, I see the sloped roof for the sun coming in, but it can be diffuser, it can be just an overhang that deflects. So it doesn't have to be a big gesture of the entire volume tilted down. That was a 1970s language. And we are actually, all these auditions are replacing the historical print that was a center. Now it's gonna look like just a regional high school that we have. So I wonder whether you can make it look more like a town building, because Grange Hall, and then if you go to West Tisbury, police station used to be a school building. But even though the public service building changes its feature over the decades or century, public building always looks like a public building in the rural area. And if this is just a city regional high school, then that building could be not a problem. But in the central location in the existing campus here, I think it should look more like a public building, and the public building language actually should have some more symmetry and dealing with the existing neighborhood as a context. These are also important, and I think option, the second presentation.
Sorry, just in the interest of time, that's all gonna come with the design of the building, and I absolutely want your input. The other thing is, I don't know if you're aware of the schools we looked at.
Mhm.
You should look at those because they do a really good job in making sure that the schools follow the environment, and make sure that they fit in. But I just wanna make sure, it's 6:45 already, so I don't.
My interest is, how did it all get similar $50 million? And is there any room to make it different? Because one could be the tighter space, but more flexibility, and the more phase 2, phase 3 could be added. Then initial cost doesn't have to be $50 million. And then if it's a full-blown like a Manter well, then it can be really explored for what's best for the campus and all that. I see the potential there too. So it could explore the ideas so that people know that what could be best fitting for the school programs, not just for now, in the future. And the future could be shrunken, or it could be, and it can be replaced with school town buildings eventually moves out. If it does, then does it even work as a town service buildings, or is it going to be demolished again? So
Right.
that has to be also.
We will definitely, I'll just take 2 more questions, and then we wanna try to finish this
I
agenda.
have a very simple
Yep,
question.
go
Is this material going to be posted online so that we could have time to?
It's being videotaped by MVTV right now, so this.
No, I mean, this slides that were being shown,
Yeah.
have them posted on your website so
Oh, yeah.
so the person could,
Yep, this presentation will go on MVTV and our webpage.
so it'll show up on the website so we can look
Yeah.
at the details
Sure.
of the layout and so
Yeah,
on.
and
That'll
if you
help.
need something, if this is
Right.
hard to read or
Right.
see on TV, we can send slides out, just let us know, we can send them
Well,
out, or put them on
I'm
the
talking
website.
about getting it up on a computer and
Yeah.
posting it.
Yeah.
And
That will be on the website.
And just to finish, a couple of thoughts about this site. Those of us who were making a distinction between the Manter site and the local site, I think there was a very clear distinction about the location, and a lot of people, myself included, would very much like to see this site used, right? There was a lot less information available about the distinction between renovating this building versus a new building. So this is very helpful, and a lot of those answers, I think, about building 1, building 2, and so on, it's obviously, at the end of the day, that it isn't just renovating this existing building, it's a hybrid of a new construction. So it'd be good to have these two to look at in the context of this particular site especially, and have that, what the new building might look like, might look pretty nice.
Great, thank you.
That's it. Yeah.
Tony?
Yeah, in all of the designs, there's reference made to pre-K. So is this a policy decision that you have made, that you're going to include preschool in any school you build?
It is, the MSBA wanted to know if we were gonna do any additional programming, and one of the considerations, because we've had talks with other towns for years about shared services, and it's been, and I've talked to selectmen and finance committee members, and town definitely feels like it's time for Tisbury to host something if it's possible. So when the superintendent was involved with the principal, pre-K is a desired added program that would have other uses if pre-K didn't happen. So yes, pre-K is being considered as added programming to the school.
And another question is, in your criteria, what's the stipulated occupancy of the cafeteria?
Half the student population, so that ideally, they could be served in 2 lunch periods.
Right.
That's the ideal.
And our projected enrollment for this project is 285, so it'd be like 143.
Okay. And the last question that I have to introduce, which you're not going to want to hear, is that I don't think that the middle school population of Martha's Vineyard justifies 4 independent facilities. And as a taxpayer, I think because of that model, we have much more infrastructure and much more faculty than is, as I said, justifiable. As we saw at the last town meeting, the school and salaries and what have you occupy almost 35% of the, I'm sorry, 75% of the town budget. So that's a lot of money. And no one begrudges the children a good education. I have 3 children, one of whom's already been through this school and is doing very well. But I think there's educational reasons for separating elementary school and middle school. And in our population, I think there's very good reasons for having the middle school grades be more populous. My daughter, who went K through 8 in this school, was in a class which was never more than 28 students separated between 2 classrooms. And 28 students at that volatile age that middle school contains is not a big enough pool of people to address many of the social issues which just are coming with that and get more complex every year with that age group. I think the facility would be better sized, better cost. If it were only an elementary school, I would heartily endorse including preschool with that. I don't know how many of you have visited the Chilmark School, which is a preschool through 5 grade. And granted, they have the benefit of being a very small community, so they have a kind of flexibility, which a student body of 180 or 200 or whatever the elementary school population of any of our current schools would be. Leo DeSorsi, I believe, is on your committee.
Correct.
You should speak to him about the year he spent in Tisbury while the West Tisbury School was being renovated. And in terms of a 50-year lifespan of the building and the ultimate cost of the building, I think disruption of a year or a year and a half to the student body is a negligible concern. I think it can be addressed absolutely adequately. My wife was the person who suggested that you look into how much space is available in the other schools and tuitioning students out to the other schools. Edgartown has a lot of vacant space, even Oak Bluffs has vacant space. And
Yeah, we had not looked at that yet, but as I said, it was brought up at the meeting the other night. It's definitely, we could be looked into.
because if this were an elementary school, you wouldn't need science labs, you wouldn't need a gym of the same type. And a lot of these facilities you just wouldn't need.
So the
And
gym
they
would
already
stay the same
exist.
as an elementary school?
They already exist in 3 other schools on the island.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. All right, well, thanks for your comments. Okay, just, I know we're running really over, so I don't want to keep you here too much longer. So we'll go back to overall schedule, which I think you have up.
So just going over what we've done the last 2 weeks. So April 3rd, we had community forums, but we did 2 times, morning and evening, well attended. We had each of the departments and meeting with town staff and departments, the selectmen's meeting, the town meeting presentation, and presented to the students, both the lower school and the upper school, last Friday. And presented an assignment that we're hoping we can scan those and put them up on the website and have them available for people to look at. Maybe include those and maybe some presentations from students in the next community forum. I think would be kind of a nice idea. People like getting their children engaged in part of the process. And then we have a meeting on Monday evening the Vision Council presentation. Upcoming, so we have on the schedule, May 24th meeting is our next, we have
We
May,
had it tentative, and it's on the website, May 10th. You know, again, if we're gonna be trying to do this public forum, we may wanna keep May 10th meeting, depending, again, we'll have that conversation, but right now, it is definitely, we'll have the 24th. And then June 7th, I was just talking to John, for some reason it's on the website, it's Tuesday, June 6th, and I don't remember the reason for that. But there's no reason we can't have it on the 7th. We can't have it on the 14th, which would be the second Wednesday, because it's Tisbury School graduation at 5 o'clock.
Yes.
So obviously, we can't do that. So, I think we'll just say, well, let's talk about the rest, and then talk about this public hearing, and then decide if we wanna keep next week's meeting.
so the important date is the June 29th day submission to the MSBA. So as I said earlier, we had planned on May 18th, however, we just received the comments back from the MSBA last Friday. And we have 2 weeks to respond to them, which really essentially puts us to May 18th. So it's really a short time to answer those questions, satisfy them with the answers, and submit another submission. So we recommended delaying to June 29th.
Right.
There is an August 23rd board meeting, so that would put them off. And we're hoping we could make that time up in the next phase and not
Right.
delay the board meeting for the final approval of the project.
Right, which was December 13th, I think, originally, when we looked at the May 18th submission date, which still keeps us on track for town meeting, if that works.
And worst case, it would move to January.
Right, right. So how does the committee feel about this public hearing? Do we want to schedule one, and if we do, I'm assuming, I would suggest we do it sooner than later. Any
I've heard more
comments?
people say that it wasn't necessary than it was, just observing. Felt like more people felt we didn't need it than did, but I'm not saying that we're hearing about that, just an
I think
observation.
Personally, sorry?
You could take a straw vote.
We could do that. I just think from being at Monday night's Vision Council, right, that we could have gone on for 3 more hours. I just want everybody to feel heard, and if it takes 1 more public meeting, and 2 hours out of our, I might be, I feel like, and I get the point, but some of those people weren't at the Vision Council meeting, and maybe don't realize I just want people to feel like they've been heard. And 1 more, I don't think, the worst we do is err on the side of caution and have another meeting, and so people say we have too many meetings, that's not the worst thing ever.
Yeah, and we did sort of indicate, we'll
Right.
we'll meet again,
Right.
so.
So there was
sounds
definitely a
like
desire
one
from
more
the group.
meeting is.
Could I suggest
Yes,
that the
please.
difference for that meeting might be, and I just said it, I don't know what you might feel about this, or the educators in the room, but whether that, the twist on that meeting be that we're gonna hear a little bit from the students. Could a few students maybe present their ideas, if you scan or put it on PowerPoint, their thoughts about
There
that?
might increase participation.
That's what I'm thinking, might get parents here.
With permission from their parents.
Yeah.
So how does the committee feel? Do you wanna do a straw vote? Do you feel like, do you think we can just have and pretty much say like, this is it? If you wanna have input,
Final
this is
meeting.
it,
Yeah,
final
why
meeting.
don't you advertise it,
Final public meeting,
for input.
yes ma'am.
So I feel like the people, if the goal is to get parents and get their input, that doing something with the students here at the school and using that as a mechanism to get their input might make more sense, because I don't know if people who are concerned about, as taxpayers, I don't know how much hearing from children is going to help, because I think at the end of the day, it's about the issues. I don't mean to be a downer on kids, because but I mean, I really think that it's important if we want information that's going to inform the decision that this committee is gonna make, we have to really get to the bottom of that.
Right.
And frankly, I think you put out surveys, you do whatever you can, and if people choose not to participate, that's on them. And we can only do what we can do. I think
Right.
the public forum is the place to really hammer down and fine tune what information we want and need, and not add.
So let me suggest this, we meet again next week, with the only agenda item is
Art.
to, yep,
So, meeting on May 10th?
that's what I'm suggesting we meet on May 10th, with the only agenda item to be, to figure out this public forum. Public date, everybody come with questions that we wanna dig, like Amy, you gave us a nice list. Everybody come with their list, or their questions that they feel like they need answered, or that their constituents need answered. Next week, we pick a date, we have it all set, and that's the only thing we talk about, so it should not be a long meeting.
I would suggest we try to pick a date before then.
Okay.
Because
The only
if
thing is
you
we've
wait
lost a
until
lot
May
of
10th,
people, but that's okay, we can put the data.
What about this? This is very helpful for people to have a little video. Would we show this?
We can do whatever you wanna do.
Combine some of the
Yep.
past presentations. with
Yep,
this.
and I think if we can talk about this instead of looking at the clock going, oh my god, we've been here for 2 hours, because that's how I'm feeling like we're keeping you longer than we promised you would. Next week, agenda item, only the form. Have that ready to go. We could pick a date now, because it's not gonna keep,
I think that's
it's
fine.
still gonna happen.
Yeah.
And do it that way, because I feel like this is an important thing that we shouldn't just rush into and just kind of, you know, 3 of us decide what's gonna be discussed. We already have it on the website that it's gonna be a meeting, but there's one agenda item unless there's some major emergency that comes up.
So for the timing, I think what's important, if the submission has to go on June 29th, and the public forum is going to inform the decision, there's gonna have to be time sufficient from the public forum to the next meeting, and then sufficient time for a vote and a decision. So if we back it back from the 29th, that's why I'm suggesting we probably wanna get a date on the books
Maybe
now.
between the 10th and the 24th.
I'm
Yeah,
thinking
I think the week between.
2 weeks from today, the 17th.
Colleen? Colleen, excuse me for
Yes,
interrupting, but
yes, Tony.
it depends on how you're gonna term this. If it's a public hearing, then you have a publication responsibility, and I don't know if this has to be a public hearing. I don't know, you have to ask Jay or somebody about that, but that would take 2 weeks of time, which is, I think
So we
we're,
could call it a workshop or a forum and not necessarily a public hearing.
and since I have your attention, I didn't notice anybody filming Monday night's meeting.
No, we have not had the workshops filmed.
Okay, well, I
That was,
would,
but that was the vision council, so
yeah,
it wasn't.
okay, I'm not blaming anybody, but I found when I was on the planning board that it's really, if you're interested in community outreach, you should have everything filmed, because people watch that stuff. I don't have a TV, I don't watch it, but I never cease to be amazed at the people who come up to me and say, I saw you talking about that road over there, and,
Okay, right.
so
Okay, so we could.
the people who can't necessarily get to a meeting at
Right,
5 o'clock on a
right.
weekday,
Right,
they sit home later tonight after the kids are in bed looking at this stuff, so.
sure. So do we want to shoot for, I mean, I know there's never going to be a date that's going to please everybody, but this committee has been used to Wednesdays, and the 17th would be off our schedule, but.
If you had it on the 24th, is that too late? Right, that's right.
But we could just replace it with
Use
that.
that,
Yep,
replace it with
instead.
the public forum.
Yeah, we
so
could do
everybody's
that.
got
Gives us a month back.
That would be enough time for you all.
So you want to just do that since everybody has it in their calendar? So 24th right now would be the public, let's call it public forum instead of hearing. Thank you, that's a good point, because we won't be, I don't know if hearing is a specific thing you're trying to.
You probably still should post
Right,
this,
so I
but that
think
only
we're
requires
using the wrong
48 hours,
language.
I
As
think.
opposed to the
Public
hearing,
forum.
which
All right,
is
so
2
Wednesday,
weeks
It's not
from
a
May
June.
today.
24th, we'll pick a time. I don't know, 7 PM seems to be a good public time, but we did,
6 o'clock on
yeah,
Monday.
6, so I don't know.
Cheryl has success with that, she said.
6?
6 is great.
Okay, so Wednesday, May 24th, 6 PM
Can we say in the gymnasium
in
to
the gym.
accommodate?
Yep, absolutely,
hope it's a
hopefully
big
tons
crowd.
of people. So next week, we will have we will have a meeting, Wednesday, May 10th, with the only agenda item being to drill down on exactly how this forum or workshop, forum, I don't know what you want to call it, but, and that's it, it'll be a short meeting. Because I don't think we should go into that not prepared as a committee.
So next Wednesday, May 10th, 5 o'clock,
Yes,
building committee meeting.
yep,
Thank you.
So 6 PM on
Thank
Sunday.
no,
Okay, thank you. I knew there was a
Where did
reason.
that come from? Right.
All right, any, do we have any invoices, John? So 6 PM on Wednesday the 10th?
Correct.
Yes.
6 PM Wednesday, May 10th,
And then 6 PM Wednesday, May 24th.
would be the public forum.
Again,
Instead
it's
of the school building committee meeting, which actually would have to be posted
Right.
as a school building committee meeting.
And the next one's was 24.
How's that?
We're not
All right, yeah, we're gonna lose our quorum in a second, so you can't leave the room yet.
I just want to acknowledge the receipt of 2 invoices. One from Michelle Vivian for videography.
Matt, don't walk out. I need you guys in the room for quorum, please. You can't leave.
I'll be quick. So one invoice
You always have a quorum unless somebody
0001
asks.
from Michelle Vivian. I'll give you copies of these, Marty.
Okay.
Total of $90 that I'm acknowledging that work was done. And the second invoice, the Martha's Vineyard Times for advertising, $345.60. This was, advertising for the feasibility and schematic design. So I just want to
Right, and I also.
acknowledge receipt of those invoices so that they can be paid.
And I have a receipt from Survey Monkey, $300, and it's good for a year. Okay, all right, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye to adjourn. Aye. I should have said motion to adjourn, sorry. Motion to adjourn. Yeah, we have a motion and a second, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? I'm sorry, and, what's behind me? Sean?
7:02.
I actually did. Sorry it was so long, everybody. Thank you for coming.